Welcome to the show. This is the Epic Trash Show. Today is Sunday, 3/24. So
2019.
2019.
In case anyone's confused.
In case you're seeing this 5 years in the future.
This is our weekly podcast about video games and other such things. Hit us up on the email, epictrash@groupmail.com. Hit us up on the Twitter, Epic Trash Show. And please, sub to the YouTubes.
Timestamps are still a thing.
They are indeed.
I feel like I should say it out loud because people don't. I'll put the graphic up, but then people won't look at it. They'll just listen to the podcast. So I feel like I need to say it out loud. Timestamps are still a thing. I'll probably say it every episode from now on.
Perfect.
The importance of timestamps cannot be understated.
Also, just a little housekeeping. We have a new Discord server up, so we're going to put the link in the description. So if you want to join us and weigh in on the conversation, we'll be there. So that's one of the better ways to get in contact with us. So please join our Discord.
Yeah, I guess you could always answer the questions there. The question of the week and stuff on Discord too.
You could do, that's yet another way you can get in contact with us. So
I think most of the comments for the question of the week have been on the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So far.
It makes sense. So last week's question of the week was, have you ever gotten into a fight over video games? And if so, what happened?
The answer is yes. So somebody said, I almost got in a fight in high school after whooping ass in Mario Tennis. It was intense.
Really?
It's kind of funny that it was Mario Tennis, yeah.
Oh man.
But Mario Tennis was really badass.
I mean, that's one of those...
Probably N64.
I played Mario Tennis for the Virtual Boy.
Really?
I'm surprised it wasn't like Mario Kart. I got in a few...
Really?
A few friendship ending.
For Mario Kart?
No.
Oh.
But I mean, there's potential for that.
I don't think I've ever been in a fight over video games.
Really?
I can't think of
I
anything.
get like an argument. I've been in like arguments over
Either or. I can't really think of any time where I've been in that much of a conflict about video games. I mean, the closest thing that even comes to that is like the console wars between like Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis way back in the day. But that was just like, petty console war nonsense. It wasn't like a legit fight. Yeah. It was just like, oh, this system's better. No, this system's better.
Oh, yeah, the flame wars.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the closest I've come is, Mom, 5 more minutes!
Super Nintendo's better.
Yeah. So, big game came out this week.
What about our questions before? Do we have a question for this week?
We got a question. In your opinion, which game is better? DMC5 or Sekiro? They both came out. They both got a 9.5 from IGN. So, which do you think is better?
I wish I actually got to play DMC5. I really should have rented it, but I didn't.
I'm gonna rent it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my plan. I'm gonna play it because it looks really freaking good. I've seen the Michael Jackson rip. Have you seen that where they're dancing? It looks nuts. So I'm excited for that. I've never played any of the other ones, but it seems like it's gonna be good.
Yeah, I've just seen a bunch of the Dante versus Virgil and Dante parodies and stuff and why he's OP. Yeah. And kind of stuff like that. Yeah, but I haven't. Well, I guess I played the demo, so I kind of played it, but you only get to play as Nico or whatever, the kid who drives the van and stuff. Yeah, I don't think he's new. I think he's new. I don't think he played. I didn't play the last two, but I played the first two. So but they're all as Dante, and then the people after you beat it, you can play as.
I'm pretty sure that started out as a Resident Evil title, right? They were going to make Resident Evil 4.
It was supposed to be Resident Evil 4.
Yeah, and then it was so different that they just renamed it Devil May Cry, and they're like, it's a different IP now. Yeah. So that's cool.
What is our challenge? So I think we want to do kind of an ongoing challenge. Probably for the next month or two, maybe. I guess it depends on how much content we actually get. But what we're thinking is we're trying to make a new intro. So if you want to send us your trash moments, they can be either video clips or images like stills. But basically, stills or video of your trash moments in games or literal trash in your life. So whatever you prefer.
I can pictures of your ex-girlfriends or whatever.
Yeah, your neighbor's garbage that he never takes out to the road or something.
Literal trash.
Yeah, but basically something to do kind of like a intro, music montage kind of thing for the show.
Yeah, so if you want to get in the intro, send us those clips.
Yeah, basically you'll be in the first 30 seconds, which is about the peak of our retention time. So.
and when we get huge, then, those clips will still be there. So we'll be like, wow, I'm in this huge podcast.
Yeah, we're massive.
Yeah.
Super massive.
I think it could get bigger. We're almost, next week will be 10 weeks.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a milestone.
Never missed a weekend. Don't plan on it.
Yeah.
We got this. So,
what do we got?
A massive game that came out this week.
Super massive.
Sekiro.
Not developed by Supermassive.
Yeah.
To be clear.
From.
Supermassive?
Who's on first?
The From Software game, just similar to the same people who made Dark Souls and Bloodborne. And it's absolutely amazing so far. Is there anybody who hasn't played it?
That'd be me.
Whoops.
Hey, I've never played any of the From games. I started playing Bloodborne for about 10 minutes, and my wife kicked my ass in that. It's like, I'm done.
Really?
But no, yeah, she's actually really good at it. But I'm gonna probably revisit it someday.
Mm-hmm.
But those games weren't for me because I know it's just a time sink. Yeah. Of trying to make yourself get better, and I'm like, I got plenty of things to do.
It is. That's what I was saying the other day. It's just complete trial and error thing.
Yeah.
I mean,
you can get through them fairly quickly.
Yeah.
It only took me a couple of days to get through Bloodborne.
If you're not me.
Yeah. Well, so I've played it for a pretty good amount of time since it came out, and it's been out for 2 days now because this is Sunday morning, so I guess 2.5 days. But you've only played a handful of hours, I guess. So what do you think of this so far?
It was a super busy weekend. I would have played a lot more, but I got to play for maybe about a half an hour. So I saw the intro. I got to fiddle around with I got a couple of the Buddhist carvings that you can use to travel and stuff and meditate at.
Yeah.
And I like how this one seems to be a little bit more story heavy than the last ones because Bloodborne was fun, the setting was great, the map was great, and there's plenty of lore to it, interspersed throughout that you can find. But this one seems to be a little bit more narrative driven, which is something that I really appreciate because I like a good story, and there seems to be more of a reason to me playing through this really difficult, challenging world.
Yeah, I know the older From games what is Demon Souls, Dark Souls? Yeah. They all had a lot of lore, but you had to really dig for it in order to find it.
I think that was the same as Bloodborne. I think, and when you look at it from that perspective, I think if you wanted to put Demon Souls and Dark Souls kind of in the middle, I think they tried to make Bloodborne even less in your face narrative and more if you really want to find it and piece it together. Because I don't know if you ever watched any of the videos or anything about the lore of Bloodborne, but it's super weird.
Yeah, it's really bizarre.
Really
I have looked into it because I'm interested in that stuff, and it wasn't really easy to piece together in the game. So I'm just I gotta know.
See, I kind of like that. It's almost like a meta aspect to the game where it's you're never gonna find this yourself. Right. The community has to put it together and put it on the internet. You have to go search for it, and it's like a mini game in and of itself.
Right, because I think that's from a lot of the videos that I saw about Bloodborne is kind of it was a lot of people talking about what other people had found and then putting it together with their own findings. Yeah. But going back to what I was saying, where if Dark Souls and Demon Souls in the middle, Bloodborne would be kind of less in your face, and then I feel like Sekiro is more in your face, where it's literal cutscenes, and then you meet NPCs that are telling you what's going on in the story, and even to go one step further, telling you what to do. And I feel like there was only so many NPCs in the Souls games that were hey, you need to go do this. But in Sekiro, there's a lot of people that go. Almost most of the people that you meet are hey, you need to do this, or here's something for you to do. But it's not it doesn't throw a bunch of side quests or anything at you, but it's one of the one girl who's kind of at your home base is you need to bring me gourd seeds for your flask. That's why I'm here.
Okay, I'll bring you your gourd seeds.
Well, yeah, but it's well then she reinforces your flask to give you to give you more uses, and then it also boosts more.
Sarcasm
so it's definitely Yeah, I mean, so what did you think of the combat and stuff like that?
The combat was really fun.
Yeah.
For what little I played.
Did you get to the boss? Any of the bosses or?
No, not really any not bosses as I've come to know them from what a From Software game means.
Did you get to any of the ones that have they take like 2 death blows to take?
Yes.
Yeah. So that would be they have like kind of 3 tiers as far as I know right now. They have the lower tier, which is kind of just your regular mob guys, and then they have mini bosses, and then they have big bosses, I guess, or elite bosses.
The oversized ones that they're known for.
Well, like I guess like a level boss.
Yeah.
So you didn't even have the arm yet, do you?
No, I got that far. I just got that far, and then I got to the guy that lets you practice with him and stuff nearby. Yeah. And then I ventured out a little bit further past that, and I got to like where there were some dogs in this pathway, and that's where I stopped.
Yeah.
So,
but that's that's basically the intro, because that's where I can't even think of his name right now. The guy who basically puts your stuff on, he crafts your arm and stuff for you. It's gonna bother me that I can't think of his name. But yeah, he does all your prosthetic work and stuff like that.
That's a really interesting feature. That's like definitely something kind of new, at least for me, because like I never played like Demon Souls or Dark Souls. I played Bloodborne and that was it. And I played a little bit of like Dark Souls, and I'm just like, it's not my thing. And but I really enjoy the new mechanics that they're introducing. I do kind of wish that they made it so that you could customize his face again. Yeah. Like they give you that option in Bloodborne.
Well, I think the thing with this is that they're not going to give you really much of anything. Like you're not going to be able to get different armor or anything like that, or you're never going to get different weapons.
Yeah.
Aside from the prosthetic attachments.
And I guess that comes down to like their balancing of the scales of like more narrative focused. Yeah. So like if it's more story and narrative focused, then they have to remove some components.
Well, yeah, they need a main character, and I think they want you to kind of like relate to him and stuff. Yeah. Instead of him being you. He's his own person, and you know what I mean. And then you're like, playing his story.
Yeah, it's like Rockstar games with like their main protagonist or whatever. Yeah. They could make it customizable, but if they want to have like a proper story, they have to have like a specific character in mind. Yeah. So I can understand why they went that route, and I'm fine with it. Like I'm totally fine with it because I get to experience like the actual story this time. So I'm ready for it. I like the arm feature is really interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing how that can change things. Yeah. It's already changed things because like in Bloodborne, like you had no other way to get around other than just running from place to place. Yeah. But like in this game, like within the first 5 minutes, I'm like grapple hooking over to far ledges and stuff, and that's very new for me from those guys.
Yeah.
So in the older From games, a lot of times the maps, the way they're designed, they kind of like go around and then they come back and centralize in a central hub. Did you notice that there was that aspect in this game, or not so much?
There's some of it like a little bit later where it'll be like a door is locked, and then so you have to kind of come up and go around, and then I already noticed that there is some kind of like side bosses and it's kind of like some side stuff where you don't need to go over there. And actually I met an enemy that was like way too hard for me, so like right now. But that instance is that it actually went through and then it kind of looped you back to one of the statues that you found before, so it's like if you want to come back to that boss later, you have like a shortcut to go to him. Okay. So it is somewhat linear, but then they do have these kind of like
wraparounds.
Wraparounds for you to get back to the statues and stuff, because the statues are basically the same thing as the bonfires were in Dark Souls. Yeah. So there's a lot of things, and like it kind of like eats me up a little bit because I saw one video already where like somebody was totally trashing it, but at the same time, because they're basically like, it's Dark Souls reskinned, like people are giving this such a high rating and it's trash, and it's like it's really not. Like, and I don't even think that guy played the game, or because I was reading the comments. But I actually think like, and that was I was going to go back to something you were saying, kind of about the way you move around the levels. It's just so completely different from Dark Souls, or not completely, but it's just adding new ideas to it. Like the whole thing with like the grappling hook. There's other areas where it's like you basically, there's some areas where like to progress, you basically need to jump off a cliff, and then like you don't even get the grappling hook icon until like you're 50 feet away from where you are.
Leap of faith.
Yeah. So you have to do like tons of stuff like that. But it actually, so it kind of like adds this new platforming aspect to the game for me. And I know there's kind of a platforming aspect in some of the Dark Souls levels, but it's like a lot more primitive, I feel like.
Yeah.
Because in this one, there's a lot more. And this game, honestly, like it totally reminds me of Tenchu. I don't know if anybody played Tenchu for the PlayStation back in the day, but basically you're a ninja. Same thing, like in medieval Japan, and like you have a grappling hook, and like it's like some of the animations are like almost the same. Like the wall hug is like it's completely the same as Tenchu, and like I almost want to do a separate video where it's like putting them together,
comparison.
And then it's like, yeah, because this is like a decade gap or maybe a little bit longer, but it's like this is the basically Tenchu. I don't remember what the last one was, but this is like the next Tenchu, really. But and then the same thing, it made me think a lot of the Assassin's Creed games too, of like the scaling and then platforming stuff that they have going on. So I think they're really doing a lot of new stuff, and even like you said with the prosthetics, a lot of those prosthetics, like you get them and then you have to use different ones in different areas to kind of like get through the mobs.
I figured that was coming.
Yeah, without like. I'm not trying to be like a spoilers or anything, but it's like there's some bosses where you can use some of the attachments where you didn't actually think you could, but it'll actually have an effect on the boss and make the boss fight so much easier. And because that's like that's my biggest issue right now is like I don't have any problem with the mobs, I don't have any problem with the levels, or if I have fallen off a couple cliffs on accident, but it's like Sekiro moves so much faster. Your character Wolf, like he moves so much faster than all the other all the other characters. And
so how's like, the difficulty in this game compared to the other ones?
The bosses are serious, man.
Yeah,
like they are very serious.
They've always been pretty serious, but
this is a whole nother level, man. And like I've played all the Souls games. I played Bloodborne. I played Demon Souls. Like I feel like I played Demon Souls like when it came out. I played Dark Souls the day it came out. I played Dark Souls 2 the day it came out. 3. I played Bloodborne, and it's just like it's a whole new beast, man. Like it really is. And like I know there's tons of tutorials and stuff and guides are like out right now, but it's like if you go into those and like learn them for yourself, it's hard, man. And like that's what I've been doing. Like some of the bosses are really hard. Yeah. And it's just just unbelievable. It's just unbelievable.
It's gotta be so rewarding though when you finally beat them.
Yeah, it is really rewarding, and like that's why I always liked the From Software games. Is because it's like they really they reward players who are persistent and who basically almost take notes or mental notes of what's going on in your boss battles and stuff, and figuring out a way to work yourself through the game. Really.
It's really interesting the way that they implement like old school video game logic with like a modern polished veneer, where they have like if you rest at a campfire, you rest at the Buddha statue, then certain enemies will come back. Yeah. Whereas like most of the time in games today, it's like you kill an enemy, and if you like save or if you like rest in a bed or something like that, the enemies just stay dead. Yeah. So it's like you have to be aware of what's going on. Like the old school games, they used to do that where you would clear a level, you go back to that level, enemies are right back again, and hit it again.
Yeah, that's why I always like Diablo, the first one and stuff, because it's like it's procedurally generated. Right. So it's like any time. In the original Diablo, you could actually save your game, so you could save where everybody was gone, or you could just save your character, and then if you save your character, then you could load your character into a new game, or you could load that where you were before, like if you didn't want to ruin your progression and stuff. But I mean, I love that aspect to it. Sometimes like it makes it harder because like there's a boss you need to get to, and then there's like a couple mobs that you have to fight, and sometimes it's like. I was fighting one boss last night. I probably fought him like 6 or 7 times, but it's like I got to the point where I was like cleaning out, hit the area around him so I could fight just him, and I was doing it in like 2 or 3 minutes. Yeah, nice. And it's just like I mean, you just start to work the level and find out what works, and that's what I was going to say. Or that reminds me of what I was saying before about how Wolf is so fast. Like your character is so fast. It's like because you can sprint. I don't know if you noticed that, but he's like lightning, man. Like he just runs so fast. And then if like you start doing your platforming stuff while you're at that speed, it's just like it reminds me of like Mirror's Edge or something.
Yeah, I feel like Wolf's like regular movement speed is as fast as like the full speed of like your character in Bloodborne almost.
Yeah.
Like he's just like a cut above when it comes to like quick movements and stuff. But that makes sense for the time period and the the culture and stuff that they were going for. The agility factor is really necessary, where he's like that Victorian vampire hunter kind of setting
and stuff.
And but like another thing I really wanted to bring up about this was that I feel like, and I could be wrong because I've only played very little of it so far, but I feel like this game is much less oppressive than Dark Souls or Bloodborne was.
Like less forgiving.
When it comes to when it comes to like the setting, like the map and stuff, it feels like there's more color to it, there's more life in it. Whereas like Bloodborne, it was just like everything is just really dark and gray all the time, and there's just nothing but monsters and zombies and death around you all the time.
But I also, at the same time, I like it. But I think it's just different. It's a different take on.
Nice to have a color palette.
Time. Yeah, I like it. I feel like I thought it was going to be a little more saturated than it was, but I'm sure I could just go into my like TV options and scale it up if I really wanted to. But it still has like a little bit of that muddy, unsaturated feel at sometimes. But I don't think I have gotten to the point where there's anything. I mean, I have gotten like some really like saturated like teal colors or turquoise in one of the areas I was in, but there's been a lot of fire and stuff. I mean, I feel like it's a lot of red and oranges and then white and brown. And
it seems like there's definitely a lot more nature in it.
But I have seen some clips, and like I really hate watching stuff because I'm like playing the game right now.
Yeah.
So I don't want to see anything. But I did see some clips where there's very dynamic levels. You know what I mean? They look very different. So there's a big change. There's like a big change between some of the levels.
You were kind of saying that like the story is more apparent in this game.
Definitely.
Like as you progress, does it have like a linear story that's happening?
Yeah, you're supposed to be rescuing the heir to the throne, who basically has like magic blood.
Oh, okay, all right.
Just to keep it like super simplified.
Yeah, okay, that's cool.
Because you save him in the beginning. You save the heir.
Yeah.
But then he gets taken from you, and then so you're going back to get him back.
That little part right there that you just mentioned, like. That was so well scripted into the game where like I failed that fight.
Yeah.
And I was just like, well, looks like I died, and then all of a sudden like it goes right into the next scene and I'm just like, oh wait a minute.
Well that's how a lot of their games have been though. That's how Demon Souls was, and I think the first Dark Souls there was a boss just like that where it's like you're supposed to lose.
Yeah.
I think the one in Demon Souls you could beat, but it's like literally take you like 45 minutes because of the weapons you had. Even in Salt and Sanctuary, the remake, that kind of like side-scroller platforming remake. There was a boss in the beginning of that.
Dark Souls of side-scrollers.
Well, they even said, like the developers, because it was like this dude and his wife.
Yeah, they were paying homage to it, right?
Yeah. They were basically like, we're gonna kind of like do our remake of Dark Souls how we want to do it. And I mean, so far I think we kind of covered everything, but so far, dude, like I'm totally obsessed with playing it. I mean, I probably think I have like 12 or 15
I only played
so far.
Literally about a half hour, and I'm just eager to get back home.
And now I'm getting good at it. Like seriously, like the first part, like it gets you like feeling really confident, and then it just like steps on your head like a dozen times.
You think you're good?
Yeah. Because like I remember when I streamed like the first hour and some change or something, and I was like, I got this. Like I got the parry down, I got the deflex down, but like once you start, I mean. The enemies, they have so much versatility, like in their weaponry, where it's like sometimes you're fighting giant guys with like giant spears or just giant like hands, really, or sometimes you're fighting people that are like your size, but they're like jumping around like Yoda in the freaking second Star Wars or whatever that was. You know what I mean? It's just like, this is crazy. And but I mean, the hits just keep coming, really.
It's awesome.
You did say there was some some new type of mechanics that they added on, because you were like, because I asked if it was a reskin of Dark Souls, basically.
So that's what I said.
Well, let me just say, because like I've heard that argument before from a lot of people, like when it comes to like things like Red Dead, for example. Yeah. Everybody, like there's a lot of people out there who don't seem to understand what a game engine is and how that can make two games feel similar, but still be very different. Yeah. And that apply like From Software, like they have their own their own game engine for their games, for their Dark Souls, for Bloodborne, and now for Sekiro, and it's all built off that game engine that they use. Mm-hmm. So obviously there's going to be some things where like it's very obviously from the same core elements, and like they can play with those elements and change it up in various ways and expand on some of the gameplay mechanics involved to always feel like a new game.
Yeah. That's always been my argument for like Call of Duty is that like they're like, well, it's the same game every year. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, I like the mechanics. They're not going to change it up. If they did, it wouldn't be Call of Duty anymore.
And just to throw in this one last thing, like I've seen people say like Red Dead 2 is Grand Theft Auto Western. And it's like,
it is.
Not really, because like you don't have cars, you don't have a big major city like Los Angeles to play around in, you don't have like the typical modern desert.
I think it depends on how you take that message, because I would say that Red Dead 2 is Grand Theft Auto in Western, but because it's Rockstar. Well, no, just because it's Rockstar. And this is how Rockstar makes games, and it's like
their combat does play very similar. The gunplay is similar,
and the way you talk to people, and the way that you go around the map, and like kind of how, you said, it's because they built it with their engine, and so it's like I mean that's why it's like I don't think. You know, I don't know how to what else to describe it to, but it's you know what I mean. It's not going to be like they're not going to come out. This is really like off the. I was just going to say it's not going to look like Minecraft. Yeah. You know what I mean? Well, what do you say? But just before, so we can get off Sekiro. What I was going to say, the mechanics. I think some of the new mechanics they have, I think would be taking, or some of the new ideas that they're implementing in this game would be taking away the armor and the weapons. I think the abilities thing, I don't really think I've seen before, because you can level up your abilities so you can unlock different combo chains, which is something I haven't seen in any of the Souls games. There were, when you got different weapons in Souls games, you would have different combos and stuff, but this time you can like level up.
Yeah, that applied to Bloodborne as
well. Using your XP.
They had, like, in Bloodborne, they had guns instead of shields.
Yeah. But you would have different combos with different weapons. But in this one, there's an actual, like, ability tree that you can progress through. And so you have, like, there's text you can find where it's like you can unlock shinobi abilities. And then I think there's another one that's like samurai. And then so you can, like, switch it up and you play. But then they still have like, attribute building with vitality and attack. The whole platforming thing, I think, is like something that I feel like is completely new for them.
It definitely adds like a new layering of maneuverability to it, where like you can come at like that's something that I noticed strongly was like in Bloodborne.
Well, they have stealth, like you literally have like a thing where you go stealth.
and that was really cool because like I snuck up on a couple enemies and just killed them right away, and I'm just like that's so satisfying.
Well, that's how you do it. Like some of the mini bosses, you can sneak up and they have the double death blow, but it's like you can get one of those death blow
automatically
sigils right off them immediately. And then, so the only other thing I was going to say too is they kind of, and I guess they have it a little bit before, but now there's a bigger emphasis on, like, I guess the rock, paper, scissors combat system.
Oh, okay.
In there, so where you have the evade, jump, and deflect.
Okay.
And then you can attack differently, like a lot of the thrust attacks, you can't block them.
Okay.
But you can, there's, you get an ability called the Mikuru counter, or Mikiro, whatever that spells. I could have spelled it wrong, but it's something like that. Vowels and consonants are in the same place.
Sure.
And the consonants are right. But basically it's where you can, instead of deflecting with L1, you actually hit the evade button, and then he'll stomp on the sword, and then you can do a death blow on normal enemies, or you can do like a bigger damage, a posture dealing on main bosses and stuff. But it's like so when somebody slashes at you, like you need to jump. When somebody thrusts at you, you need to either do the Mikuru counter or sidestep out of the way. Yeah. And then if somebody's just doing a regular kind of like hack at you, you can do a deflect.
So like in reality, like what this game is doing is instead of taking the method that they were using before, where you upgrade your weaponry to make them just stronger, and the movements are still basically the same, and like. You come at it from like in Bloodborne, for example. You came at it from like, well, dodge that way and then counter strike, and then like or use the pistol to get them on their knees, and then you can use the big blow on them to like do a lot of damage. But like in this game, it's like instead of having multiple weapons that you can use and a gun, it's now more centered around what the character can do with the one weapon that he has.
and then the prosthetic arm.
Yeah, and then
because like as you progress the game, it becomes a lot more impactful on your progression.
Yeah,
and especially there's some lower enemies that you're not gonna. You can, like, if you stealth kill them, but it's like if you're in a head-to-head, like, you're not gonna... There's guys with shields, and it's like if you don't break that shield, you're about to be there for a hot minute.
Yeah.
Like, that's all there is to it. But, I think they're doing a lot of things, and I think, like, some of the ideas come from other games, so I can see how people are kind of, like, ripping on them about it. Like the rock paper scissors thing was like a big For Honor.
Well, it's like with anything. Like they design these games with like a certain player base in mind, and they build up that player base. And it's like if you enjoy Dark Souls and Bloodborne, you're probably going to enjoy this one too.
But I would say even if you enjoy Assassin's Creed or you enjoy For Honor, that you're going to like this too. Or like if you like Tenchu and you like ninjas, like I feel like they're actually targeting like a bigger group. Because they're bringing so many elements that work from other games in.
Yeah, that's a great
point. And it's like there's no reason. It's like nobody has a copyright over platforming and how you go about doing it. And nobody has a copyright over how you do combat.
So they're really just like they're trying to build upon their formula.
And I think they're trying to make a better game than they did before, which ding 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 like you've done. But then they're also trying to make harder bosses because like that's the thing that I've noticed with a lot of the bosses. A lot of bosses will do thrust attacks, they'll do hacks, and they'll do grabs, and there's different ways to counter all, and there's specifically different ways to counter those three things individually. And it's like if you bring a boss to the fight or to the game that can do those three things in a totally, potentially, seemingly random order, you know what I mean? It's going to be a lot harder to finish that part of the game.
Yeah.
And like that's going back to their whole thing is like it's kind of a, it's kind of a reward thing to pursue or to keep playing the game. You know what I mean? And that's what I want. I love games like this. I wish somebody would make a game that was like really hard and there was like 2 people in the world that could beat it.
So,
like seriously, just like supreme bragging rights. You know what I mean?
So how much would you say you've played of this game?
Probably like 10 to 15 hours right now.
And
it's dope as fuck.
That's your official review?
Yeah, man. Like I don't know, but like this is my niche. I mean, this is where I am personally with games that I want to play. It's like these are games that I want to play.
I'll just put it this way because like I've played way less than he has obviously, but I went out and bought it at full price. And I'm still just like after half an hour I'm just like it seems like it's worth the money.
Worth it.
Yeah.
Alright, well you heard it. Epic Trash 2019.
Yeah.
Sekiro is dope as fuck.
Alright, yeah, we spent some time on it, so let's just move on.
Okay. On to the news.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we got some really interesting updates if you're a Mortal Kombat fan. There's Mortal Kombat 11 is coming out on the 23rd of April, which will be on a Tuesday. And just this past week, they Ed Boon and company released 2 new fighters. There's Noob Saibot has been confirmed, and that's a big deal because everybody's been screaming for Noob to come back, and now he's back, and he looks brutal as hell. Like he looks like he looks more like a Grim Reaper with like armor and stuff instead of just being like a black ninja character.
Yeah,
which is how he's normally depicted in the past games.
Isn't he supposed to be a demon?
Well, no, like he was
Cyber Demon?
He was the original Sub-Zero in the very first Mortal Kombat game, and then in the storyline he gets killed off, and his brother takes over the mantle of Sub-Zero. And so, but the original Sub-Zero, after he died, he went down into the Nether Realm and came back as a Spectre, and he became Noob Saibot. And so, like, he gained like this very different power set, and like,
so he's dead Sub-Zero?
Essentially, yeah. Yeah,
cool.
He's the original Sub-Zero.
I didn't even. I paid no attention to the lore.
Yeah,
like,
so
can I kill this person?
There's a lot of lore to Mortal Kombat.
Yeah. With 10,
every time you play a character, you get a new ending, and it adds to the story.
Well, ever since Mortal Kombat 9, they've been kind of like making up this like fully realized unified story instead of going on individual endings and trying to just kind of like make sense of them as time goes on. But there's also the first DLC fighter has been announced, which is Shang Tsung. He's coming back, and also if you're into nostalgia, and if you saw the original movie with Shang Tsung in the 90s, the actor who played Shang Tsung in the movie is playing they took his face and put it in the game, and he's also doing the voice and he's going to be your guide in the crypt as you go through the crypt and stuff.
That's awesome.
So that's really neat.
Is Jean-Claude going to be Johnny Cage?
No, no.
He was Johnny Cage, right? Or no?
Well, no. What they did was
that was
he was
Street Fighter. That's my.
Well, no,
no.
You're right. He was supposed to. They were NetherRealm was originally going to make a game based around Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yeah.
But he decided like he didn't want to be involved or like something was going on like that. So they turned the Van Damme model into Johnny Cage.
Yeah.
So Jean-Claude became Johnny Cage essentially.
Yeah.
So
I was thinking
he was too busy doing splits on trucks.
I was thinking of Guile in the Street Fighter movie because that was Jean-Claude Van Damme.
So we also know that Shao Kahn will be coming back as a DLC character as well if you pre-order the game.
I hope they allow that. You're gonna pick it up if you don't pre-order.
They might. I mean, a lot of games do that. They just tell you like, oh, pre-order, and then they give you the code anyway.
Yeah, right. So, that's true. Pre-order. Just kidding. Everyone gets it.
Let's see. I'm just going to run through the list real fast here for confirmed characters. We've got Raiden, we got Sub-Zero, Scorpion, Sonya, who's being played by Ronda Rousey, actually.
That's my kitty's name.
We got Baraka, Scarlet, Liu Kang, Kano, Cabal is returning with his two hook blades. A lot of people are excited for that one.
I just like Cabal.
Devorah's coming back. Jade is making a return. She looks pretty fierce. Johnny Cage, Cassie Cage, Jackie Briggs, Aaron Black, the Western outlaw guy. Kotal Khan is coming back from the last game. Chronica, Garrus, and I think that's it. And I also wanted to touch on how the gameplay mechanics are going to be changing a little bit. Mm-hmm. Instead of being focused on a lot of combos and stuff and like long string combos, they're focusing more on like using the unique abilities of each character to like do heavier attacks, but with like a shorter list of moves all at once. Mm-hmm. So instead of doing like say a 15 hit combo that does 50% damage, you're going to do like a 5-hit combo with one or two unique abilities to that character, and then like you'll have to take a kind of a step back and like try to regroup on, because like you can't just, it seems like they're working more on like making it a little bit more of an even playing field for both fighters, instead of making it so that like if you know the character's brutal long string combos, you can just wreck them.
Right.
You know, it's not really like that anymore.
So you think they're trying to make it easier for people to learn more characters? And potentially
that could be what they're doing, because a lot of their characters are like mid tier or like mid length, mid screen effectiveness. So I don't know. It's really the gameplay has been really interesting to watch. They've changed the X-ray move so that instead of it being like a full, you have to like get a full bar of power to use an X-ray at any time.
Yeah.
You have to be at like 30% health or less to use your fatal blow, which is essentially an X-ray, which does like 30% damage. So it can kind of help you even the odds a little bit.
Gotcha.
If you're not
the only problem though is if you bring somebody else to 30 using your fatal blow, or is a fatal blow is dead. Is that death or
no? No. It's not instant death unless somebody's that close
like a good chunk of life.
It'll be like the most.
But it would be easy to bring somebody to 30 or below 30 and then have them be
that's why I think that's why they balance it out a little bit, so that you have to have your own health bar down to 30% to even unlock that move.
Yeah.
Because before it was like you could just save up your X-ray for whenever, and even if like if you had your X-ray bar ready and you finished the first round, you can go into the second round with your X-ray already at disposal. So like you could instantly get out like a whopping combo that like knocks down the health bar of somebody in like just a handful of moves in a very short time.
Yeah.
So it was a little bit misbalanced in that sense, I think. But they're trying some new stuff with this, so I'm eager to see where it's going to go. And the storyline looks also pretty interesting for a fighting game, especially. NetherRealm has really been kicking ass with their story modes. I heard rumors that this one is supposed to be like an 8-hour-long story, and they're bringing back previously dead characters. Like Baraka's coming back; he was killed off in Mortal Kombat 11 or 10, and he's coming back. And like Chronica, the big boss, is can basically like fold time and like manipulate time. So that's how they're using it, because in the last game, in Mortal Kombat 9, like the timeline was reset because it was a reboot.
Retcon.
Yeah, so they retconned some stuff and they started over from scratch.
Yeah.
And so it turns out that like Chronica was behind the whole thing the whole time, and like Shinnok failed in Mortal Kombat 10.
Yeah.
So now she's coming up to the plate and she's like, well, this is not how it was supposed to go. So I'm just gonna screw with time and make it everything like the way I want it to be.
Yeah.
So like the you can change like the characters' costumes and stuff to make it so that like Scorpion looks like his Mortal Kombat 3 costume, for example.
That's cool.
And they're gonna be bringing in like in the gameplay trailer, there's like Johnny Cage, who's like seasoned veteran, who's been around for 20 years fighting this fight with Outworld, and older Johnny, wiser Johnny, and like there's also going to be like the young hip Johnny from like the first game who shows up in his like Mortal Kombat 2 attire.
Here's
and
Johnny.
He's going to be all young and stuff, and he looks at like old Johnny, and like old Johnny kind of hates his younger counterpart, but they have to like work together because time's all screwed up and stuff, and it's a big mess.
Oh no!
So yeah, it's a really wild concept. It's an interesting way to like implement like the past versions of characters with the new versions.
Yeah.
And to like put the two against each other or working alongside each other. So I think it's going to be a really fun game to crack into. I'm really excited to play it.
Yeah.
So April 23rd, a few more weeks away.
Sounds good.
Nice. All right. Well, also big stuff coming out of Google recently. They just announced their streaming service Stadia, which is basically I think it's the future of gaming. There's a whole lot to unpack in that. It's to make a long story short, it's basically their streaming service to stream AAA games, or any game for that matter, from their servers straight to anything that has a Chrome browser. So if your cell phone has it, you can play on there.
So, but only if you have an Android? Or you just need the Chrome browser?
If you have the Chrome browser, you can play on anything.
Yeah.
So, a weak PC, it's all of the processing power is all done on their servers.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I mean, there's a whole lot to it that they put on an hour-long presentation that basically laid out how it's going to work and what it's going to be.
It's pretty much like a much more sophisticated version of PlayStation Now.
Yeah, kind of.
Well, I think is they're going to have the server power to back. I think that's what it's intended for, to have the power to back a AAA game.
Right, and the thing that there's a couple different points that they have an advantage over everyone else. Like one, they have their own personal network in the world with all their fiber, running intercontinental fiber that they have. That's their personal backbone that they're going to utilize for this. They have 2 billion different players or users of that. Basically, if you share a game, it's instantly available to all those people. There's you can stack servers to, like, if you use, most games will utilize, like, with your PlayStation or your Xbox, you've got your one device that's generating this, but because it's in a server rack, they have multiple servers. They can link those together. So if a developer wants to make a quadruple A game, they can actually make it. Like,
I hope they make Mag too.
Right. It's funny because that in their presentation they were talking about battle royales. They're saying normally you have 100-player battle royale, but with this, you could go up to 1,000 players, but someone was like, "Who would ever want that?"
Did anybody ever play Mag?
Yeah.
Mag, I think, was like 500.
Yeah, 256.
It was huge.
256
on each team.
Yeah, so it was
512.
Yeah, 512. Yeah, which was like Mag was like one of the. I put a lot of hours in Mag. Like,
did you? You liked it?
Oh yeah, dude, I love it. I did.
Wasn't it like really poorly balanced out though?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sever forever, bro. Raven was really bad. They had it was Valor, which was kind of like, I guess they were the green guys. They had the green uniforms. Raven had blue, and then Sever was red. And Sever was kind of like rebel, kind of like a lot of AK guns and stuff like that. But they were the best. But it was because of the level structure. Because like and you'd have different game types that you'd go into, and like there would be like what was it? Like it was acquisitions, and then which was like which was a flat total of 256, and then there was a big game. I think like domination or something. Yeah, it was like 512. But then it would be 4. You know, there'd be 4 sides to the map, and then you'd all push into the middle. Right. But it'd be like the Sever maps where Sever was defending. They had like the best defensive setup and stuff, and it was just, and in my opinion too, they had the best guns. Right. But yeah, I mean that would be dope for them to make Mag too. I know PlanetSide is supposed to be really big, but it's like I never feel like I try to play it for a little bit, but I can never get into anything.
Well, this is kind of more like because they can use that to.
Even graphically.
To augment their graphics, they can make it way better. They can make collapsible environments that are massive. Yeah. They can utilize AI to augment their game. So the developers have a whole lot to work with this. So there's a whole bunch of different points that make this, I think, really important to the gaming landscape.
Yeah, we have good internet.
Right. That's the thing. Is right now you need a decent connection in order to engage with this, and latency is the biggest issue that they have with it because it's much like the Steam.
Definitely going to region lock.
Well, there's that too.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's like Steam Link is the closest thing I could think that would be to this. Is basically like you have your computer that has Steam on it, and then you buy this like little box that's has no hardware in it at all. Basically, it connects to the internet. It sees your connection within your, it sees your router that has your computer, then there's the router, then there's the Steam Link. It can see that your computer does all the processing power, and then it sends it to whatever TV you have this connected to. It's kind of like a Roku. Yeah. Right? So that's the similar thing, but instead of your computer being in your house, it's the Google servers that are all over the world that are pushing this out. So
I think if they get implement it correctly and they start to get it up and running. Right. Well, you're just gonna. I mean, the one thing is though, you're gonna save money not buying hardware, but potentially our game's gonna be more expensive.
There's a ton to talk about.
Or is it going to be like a subscription-based thing, like PS?
Well, they haven't announced prices yet, so like how much is that going to be? But like at the same time, if you don't have to buy a box.
Well, also how is it going to affect internet packages and internet providers that package certain things?
And that's the thing is there's
do you have a son who plays video games? Because
well, that's it's an interesting thing. Like I said, we'll talk about it further. But net neutrality is like a big point of contention because everyone has the same. They all go over the same pipes. But it seems like Google has some sort of backdoor. They have their own network that doesn't play by the same rules. So it's like,
they've been fighting to roll out their fiber optic internet for the last few years.
Right. So it's like. I think what happens a lot is how many people do they put on a network, and I feel like if Google has their own network for them, and they have all that the speed and bandwidth to utilize for themselves.
It's scary though because they're the only ones out there who can do it, and they're international. So it's like even if they make rules that say, well, you have to play nice and let other people hop on your network, so there's competition. They're like.
Yeah, who cares?
Your country says that.
Yeah, well, I mean, somebody will probably come along eventually. Who knows how it'll actually go over when they start selling a certain product? But you do want to do a longer video in the future. Yeah, like with the not so distant future,
later this week. I probably want to unpack this big time because there's just so much to talk about. I can't cram it in this podcast. There's no way.
Yeah. So just look forward to that, I guess, in future videos and. We'll move on to Bloodlines, whatever that is.
So Bloodlines is a 15-year-old cult classic video game that's an RPG where you play as a vampire.
Is that like the Blood Rain?
Blood Rain came out shortly after that.
Is it similar?
No. Okay. It's much more of an RPG. It's dirty, gritty. You get to play as who you want. It's based off like D&D, the tabletop RPGs.
Oh, really?
So it's based off of that. So much like Cyberpunk 2077, also based off a tabletop RPG.
Oh, is it? Mm-hmm. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So this game was trash when it was released. It's a garbage game. Yeah. But because it was so ahead of its time when it came out, it gained this huge cult following, and now it's completely it was broken. You couldn't play the game. The combat just didn't work in places. Yeah. the fans rallied around this thing. It became a cult classic, and they built patches that fixed the game, so it's completely playable now. Yeah. So I'm planning.
What was it originally out for? PC.
PC. Okay. Yeah. I don't think it ever came to consoles, but don't quote me on that.
Will it come to consoles now?
The old one, no. But there's a new one. There's it's called Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2 is now coming out as a direct sequel to the 15-year-old cult classic. Oh. So
is it going to be anything like Vampire? Did you see that earlier?
Oh, that other game?
I actually wanted to play it really bad, but then somebody was telling me like
it got mixed reviews, that one.
It seemed like they had really good ideas though, and like some concepts were about how you want the world to change.
Yeah, I think they kind of lifted a little bit from the Masquerade there, but I mean it's a good game.
I would be interested in playing like something with kind of like that vampire lore and stuff. It's like as long as they do it the right way, you know.
So I think the old one was set in like the seedy underbelly of LA and the nightclubs and like your vampires, but like it's all in the hush hush because that's how vampires work. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like it's not just I'm going to run around biting people's necks. Yeah. It's like I'm going to do that, but I'm also going to like work with like crime lords, and I'm going to like develop my own place.
Is it going to be similar to that, where like in Cyberpunk, what we kind of saw, where it's like, oh, you could work with the police or you could work with the criminals?
Yeah, so
that would be cool. So that's something I'm looking forward to seeing.
It is. They actually said that when you create your character,
who's making just real quick? Who's developing
the developers? They're Hardsuit Labs and who is working with Paradox. Paradox is the main developers. But Hardsuit Labs is out set. They actually live in Seattle. That's where their HQ is located, and that's where they built this new game on. So instead of LA, it's now Seattle.
Is there any projects that you know of that either of those studios have done before?
This game.
Yeah. Oh, so they did the original too.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, so they're coming back. They're doing it, but now they're doing it in their hometown. Mm-hmm. And so this new game is basically set in Seattle, and it'll expand upon the vampire society that made the first game great. Mm-hmm. So you're going to play as a young vampire who's forcibly turned as part of a taboo mass embrace where all the vampires are turning people to try and, that's the movement that they do. And so you now have to learn to navigate the bloody political landscape. As one of the few free agents in town, you'll choose a side and play there's factions. Yeah. So you're gonna have a war there.
That's interesting. Hopefully it's not like the illusion of a choice. Like Fallout.
No, it's like World of Warcraft, where you're gonna pick your faction and then you're gonna fight against the other side. It's like a blood trade.
Is it gonna be an MMO?
No, it's a single player game.
Okay.
But it's cool because you have like there's a game mechanic where you have to maintain your humanity. So like when you could exist, you have a bloodlust, right? So you have to feed, but you could do that on rats if you want. Mm-hmm. But if you don't want to do that, you could feed on humans. Yeah. You know what I mean? And if you feed too much and take them out, then that's going to remove some of your humanity because now you're more of a monster and less of a human. And there's other,
more rats. Is that what you're saying?
Or just scar them for life and don't murder them.
Oh, like don't drain them.
Yeah.
I wonder if there will be like some kind of mechanic in the game to where you start to drain people, like it's hard to stop.
I think
would be cool because that's like the addictive nature of a vampire. I think is like when they start to taste it,
right?
They want more.
They do have a mechanic with the blood, but it's not like that. It's more like so when you pick your victim, depending on what mind state they are in, like if they're in a strip club and they're feeling lusty, they're gonna have you can pop in Aura Vision and see what these people are like. So if they're like feeling passion, they'll be yellow. If they're pissed off and they're feeling rage, they'll be red.
How does that affect your feed?
So when you feed on them, that's going to give you different buffs or it'll give you augment your character. And then so if you pick one and stick with it, you'll end up getting a specific. It's called.
Dude, that'd be so badass.
What's it called? It's a merit, right? Which will give you persistent perks. So if you stick with one kind of thing over time, you can make your character into. It's a very free flowing. Like you can be whatever you want. Yeah. And the other thing is, when you create your character, you get to pick the background, right? Yeah. So you could be a FedEx guy, or you could be a cop, right?
So if those actual choices?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or I don't know, FedEx, but delivery boy or pizza guy or whatever. Yeah. You know what I mean? But like if you pick the cop, right, then when you walk into the police station, they're going to treat you a lot different than if you weren't.
If you pick a cop, can you drive a cop car and pull people over and then suck their blood?
I do not know. That was not in the trailer, so I don't know. I can't.
Because you think like there would be different, like being able to kind of abuse your profession to like you know what I mean?
I don't see that being that far fetched because.
Or if you were a zookeeper, you could feed on elephants.
I mean, it's called the Masquerade for a reason because it's the vampires are secret. You're not supposed to let on, so you have to play that it's not a thing. You know what I mean? So
do you know anything about like the release dates or how long is this out? Can we see any content anywhere? Or?
Well, there's a trailer, but there's no gameplay trailer yet. It's pretty early, yeah. So no release date yet, but there is a trailer on YouTube you can go check out. So kind of get you in the vibe for it. Mm-hmm. So it's coming. I would say it's probably a ways off because they're still working on it. So
it sounds like it has a lot of potential, though. Right?
And it's cool because the developers are self-aware enough to know that like their game was a cult classic, and so they have a lot of expectation riding. Mm-hmm. So when they were interviewed, they said this is one of the biggest cult games ever made. Yeah. So we know that the first question the fans are going to ask is this really Bloodlines, or did you just slap 2 on something that doesn't feel like Bloodlines? Yeah. And the most important thing for us is to say, no, it's Bloodlines. Yeah. So they're really sticking to the canon on this, it sounds like. So I'm really excited to see where this is going to go because it's one of the deeper, more adult games out there. Yeah. Much like
that's what we need, kind of like what I was talking about with Sekiro. Like personally, I personally am at a place with games where it's like I want depth, or I want things done right. Or if you're going to do something, you know what I mean, do it completely. Don't like half step on an idea. Like if you're going to make a game about vampires, you know, make different levels to the game. Right. Let different scenarios play out. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like if you want to just keep it all violent, but like, you know, you could have some, I'm just like rolling freely here, but it's just like, some kind of relationship with somebody else, or like you have to keep up your appearance with your neighbors, like, you know what I mean, like do shit like that, you know what I mean, take the extra step and, don't just make a game where you're a vampire and you just jump on people the whole time.
It sounds like they have a good idea,
honestly, like the closest game I can think of to this would be like a Cyberpunk, So like I'm super excited for this. This looks really good.
I think as far as the vampire genre goes, it reminded me of that game Vampire.
Yeah,
it's like when you feed on people there, and in Vampire, I remember seeing that if like people would have different diseases because it was kind of like I think around the 1800s or something, and people like somebody would have syphilis, and it's like, well, you're really hungry. Right. And like, but do you really want to like drink the guy's blood with syphilis? Kind of a thing. But it was the same thing in that where there's kind of like some world changes that happen if you start feeding too much, and there's another group that'll come after you.
I think
start feeding in certain areas.
This kind of more of the angle would be like if the guy, instead of him having syphilis, it's like, oh, he's on a warring faction, and you could drain him, but now you might actually start a war with this nightclub over here, and now they're going to come gunning for you if you take this guy out. But he's got the kind of blood you want, so maybe it's worth it. And you know what I mean.
Well, that's the thing is like I think there should be a heavy system of kind of like risk versus reward. There where it's like.
And this really wasn't so much about the game mechanics. Yeah. It's more about role playing because that's why this is such a cult classic. It's like you get to be who you want to be.
Yeah, I think that's what you've said about it so far is the reasons why it sounds good. Yeah, it's because there's multiple layers of the game that you're not just, like I said, you're not just going to be jumping and feeding and transforming into a bat.
Blood Rain.
Yeah,
I love that game though.
Yeah, is there anything else
sucking blood from zombies, you can't go wrong, right? Yeah. But, I guess I'll leave it at that. Sucking blood from zombies.
Vampires?
Nazis, you can't go wrong.
Oh. So I read an article earlier this week, and it was actually, this is kind of completely different from vampires. But it was interesting to me because it was games that help with depression and anxiety. And so games, I guess, that are supposed to help people like get through stuff like that, but also games that are kind of geared in that direction. So you're not, maybe your main character isn't like Superman or super heroic, but it's somebody who is suffering or struggling with mental health issues. And so I just thought it was a really interesting article, and they just talk about some different games that kind of like target that idea. And they had a bunch listed. I'm only going to talk about one, and then I'll tell you about the other games that they had. But the first game that they had was called Sea of Solitude, and basically the main character is in kind of like a flooded world, and it's just an adventure exploration. But what's going on is the creatures in the game, this take it how you want it, but the creatures in the game are humans who became too lonely. It's kind of thing, or it's like basically people, but like deprived people became monsters, and then this is how she sees them. Sure. And I never played the game, I didn't see it. It comes from an indie developer called, and I might say this wrong, but Joe My Games. It's
I saw this on the they showed it at E3.
It's
and it looked really good.
JO-MEI. But they also said in the same article that the developer, the main developer, let me see if I can find it. I thought I wrote it down. One of the head developers, it was actually the main character was based off of her. Yeah. And then so earlier in her life, she was struggling with some things, and they just modeled the main character after her. Mm-hmm. And so I guess consequently it helped her get through that. And so this is definitely it's something that I want to talk about with you guys too. Sure. But let me just finish. So the other games that they were talking about was Hellblade.
Setsuna's Sacrifice? Yeah, you played that, didn't you?
It was really good.
And so that was something where she dealt with it was like psychosis.
It dealt with several things, but it was really well put together.
That game, if you play it, make sure you play with headphones because it has binaural audio, right? Yeah. So it sounds like that.
It simulates paranoid schizophrenia. Like you hear voices telling you like, as you're playing through the game, it's like you get up to this certain part and like all of a sudden these voices all around you are saying like, you can't do this, you're going to fail, like you're going to screw up or something like that, or
I did not even know that.
It's a wild game.
And they actually partnered with neuroscientists who specialize in that so they could do it accurately.
And people who actually had schizophrenia to like tell them like this is what it's like to have it.
Yeah. And it won a bunch of awards for audio design.
And they have like they cover things like optical hallucinations and what else was there? There was depression, there was like anxiety, general anxiety, like all kinds of stuff were put into that game, and it was really every aspect of it was really well done.
I remember seeing. I didn't know it went that deep. Now I'm gonna have to play it. I'm gonna have to pick it up when there's
it's cheap and it's short.
It's not even a very long game. Like you can get through it in like one day, like 8 hours.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I wouldn't be mad if it was longer, but
like the imagery and stuff like that alone in that game was already.
The graphics looked really cool.
The graphics are very good.
Yeah, and because there was kind of like that dark, twisted world that kind of interested me a lot.
Right.
Before we'll go ahead.
I was just gonna say that's one of those games that is like the $40 price point that I'm really happy that they're starting to do because I like shorter experiences. Yeah. It's like I don't need a full $60 full-length game. I don't have that kind of time. These are great. So
the same thing. I don't want somebody to pretend that they have a $60 game.
Right.
So I like that people put out, just sidebarring here, but I like that people put out games that are potentially not as long, or they know there's not as much depth or content, so they put them out for $20, $40, or even like the free to play. Like I heard a big discussion about, not that we're going to talk about Apex, but why Apex was free and stuff. But it's just nice that there's other developers and publishers putting games out at different price points, so it doesn't force people.
By the way, they've made just shy of $100 million now.
Who, Apex? Good for them and their microtransactions.
2 months, I think.
So another game, and I didn't play this either. I didn't play any of the games that are on the list. It's Celeste, and it's a character who deals with depression and anxiety.
That one won a ton of awards. Mm-hmm. It's like that's on my list to pick up because it's an indie game, but it's her fighting against I don't want to talk too much about it because it's potential spoilers there. Yeah. But she's basically wrestling with depression.
Yeah.
And the whole game, the whole lore of the game is based around that. So I can see that being really.
Well, I think from
real,
what I remember, I didn't write it down. But what I remember reading is that she potentially was before or in the game avoids kind of like confrontation or avoids even other interactions with anybody.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing. So I don't know if that's where you pick up, where is how the character was feeling before, or how you start to go through the game, where it's kind of like avoidance and stuff like that. But it seemed pretty. That was in the article, so I don't think it's spoilers. But
yeah, I've heard that like those type of games because they tackle issues and they're relatable to people who have that.
Yeah.
I hear that helps a lot because it's like, well, I'm not the only one who feels this way, obviously, because it's in this game.
Games have done a lot of stuff that's really interesting. Like there's even some games that are very basic, but like they let old people with Alzheimer's play them, and it actually helps rebuild their short-term memory.
Oh, okay, Yep.
Okay, and then here let me finish my write up, and then so another game was called Night in the Woods. This is what I wanted. I started.
That also won a bunch of awards
to do a discussion kind of afterwards. So Night in the Woods, and then that's about somebody who returns home and is struggling to reconnect with the people in the community or something. I never played it. That was just kind of what I took away from what they were saying. And then so the big thing about this article, and like we've been talking about, is the games that target mental health issues. And then I'm gonna mess this up because I didn't write it down right. I'm gonna put a graphic on the screen right now, and I think it's iThyme Games Foundation, and it's a group that's basically has a work in process game for that it is intended to help teenagers with anxiety. So I'm not sure. I'd have to look into it a little bit more, but I just thought it was interesting, and I thought, well, that seems like something that's okay to plug because it sounds like they're doing something for a good reason.
For sure.
And then so I guess kind of what I wanted. Well, since you guys were talking about, I was going to ask you guys what kind of games have you played that potentially had the main character, or they were targeting mental health issues, or actually helped you get through a potential something like in your life where there was a time where, or any game that made you feel better about your situation, or just made you feel better in general.
Yeah.
And I guess it could be any game if you're like super hardcore into like escapism. But what would be a game that you played or something that helped you?
To build off what you just said, pretty much any game that takes me out of the pain that is this reality will help me in the long run. And that's kind of a joke, but it's kind of not. You know what I mean? Like sometimes we have rough
time. It
time.
just makes me think of your quote, "The existence is pain."
Existence is pain. It's so real.
Well, the Buddhists say to exist is to suffer, right?
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like, what is more real than pain? You know?
Well, love, I guess.
Debatable.
Love and hate, bro.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it's great that that they're doing that because there's way more people out there with suffering with this, and it's no one talks about it.
Yeah, I especially think nowadays too. I think it becomes more prevalent because I think it's easier and more acceptable for people to talk about in a public forum, I guess. So.
Yeah, I'm happy that that's starting to become more prevalent.
So is there a game that you can think of that made you feel better in general? Or potentially.
I've only been dealing with depression the past few years, to be honest. So I haven't, and I have actually been coincidentally a lot more busy. Yeah. So I don't know if those two things are correlated. Yeah. But usually the games that I've always played kind of just kept me on track and maybe like kept me diverted from. Yeah. You know, so I haven't been playing as many games as I used to. Yeah. So I would say all of them because I never really suffered and then went and played a game that made me identify. So I don't have it. What
about a game that targeted maybe the main character had a mental health issue, or that was kind of like an underlying theme of a game?
Well, I mean, we all know Mario has his own. I don't know.
He's got PTSD
triangle.
I played a lot of weird games. We just played it the other day. The Suffering. That guy had some serious mental issues from murdering his entire family.
Very underrated title, that one.
Yeah. So I guess I'm trying to think of anything else that would, but that one, The Suffering wouldn't help
No.
Too many people.
Well, I don't know. It depends because like it really depends on how you internalize it and how you
That's true. It's a subjective thing.
It's like I've had more or less had depression pretty much my whole life.
So
chronically. So
yeah. So to speak to his question, do you have any answers that might be better?
I think that's where he was going.
Yeah.
Well, it's
sorry.
Okay.
There are. It's really hard because like there's certain games where like they can be a little bit more helpful and a little bit more make you a little bit more contemplative about your experience and like why why are you like this? Like you have to ask yourself when you're dealing with
why are you the way you are?
Yeah, well, it's a real question when you have something where you go through your day-to-day life and it's like it's hard to get out of bed. It's hard to actually want to keep working every day. It's hard to function as an adult and have the energy and the mental fortitude to keep on getting up and even harder, I think it's hardest of all to feel like you're worth more than what you're doing. And that's something that a lot of people who have depression have to deal with, and that's something that I've dealt with for a long time. It was like, I thought like, well, is this all I'm going to be for the rest of my life?
Right.
Is this really the best I can do?
Yeah.
And it's like that, you get that feeling, that sense of like, not really sadness, but like just a giant weight on your shoulders that says like, this is the best you're ever going to get. Yeah. And this is all you really deserve.
Right.
And it takes a lot of effort to break out of that kind of mental thought, and even when you break out of it and you have like your periods of like oh, I feel good, like I feel normal now. Yeah. It's still there in the back of your head. Yeah. And like the best you can do is just try to do your best to keep it at bay, so that you can feel like you're more normal and feel like you're more like functional and stuff. But like when it comes to video games, like there are some games where it really brought out more of like the nihilistic sense in me, and then there's other games where it made me feel more hopeful. So it really. Do
you have any examples of either of those?
Well, like I think like one of my favorite game series of all time was like the Mass Effect trilogy. Yeah. And I liked the Mass Effect trilogy because it was this world that was really well idealized as to what I wish I could accomplish in my life, because a lot of the things that I would really like to do are unattainable to me, because like I want to travel out into space, for example. Like it's something that I've always wanted to do, and that's something that I'll never get the chance to. Right. But Mass Effect gave me that avenue to explore that in the way that I wish it were real. Right. Not in like Elite Dangerous or not even Elite Dangerous, but like No Man's Sky, where like there's not really much intelligent life out there. Right. But like Mass Effect had like fairly believable intelligent life, a fairly believable civilization, like fairly believable technology. Yeah. And some of the characters, especially like Legion, like I have him tattooed on my forearm here. Right. Legion is like my favorite character. I related to him more than any other character because Legion was this artificial intelligence who was trying to understand the world, who felt isolated from organic life and couldn't understand organic life. And most of my life, like I don't really understand the way that people are too well, right, a lot of the time. Yeah. And that's a large part because the way that my brain works with it when it comes to things like depression and stuff like that is like you get into these modes where you're isolated, and like I enjoy my solitude, yeah, but like isolation is a very dangerous step to take that you can fall into very easily when you're enjoying too much solitude, and then before you know it, you're just like, well, I don't want to leave the house, I don't want to be around people, I don't want to do this or that, and I don't want to function like a normal human being and be social and stuff. You
end up feeling like shit everywhere you go.
Yeah, and you get around these people and like everybody's having a good time. You're just like, why can't I enjoy this? Like, what's wrong with me? Yeah. And then you just leave and you want to go back home and be back on your own again.
I've been there, man.
So Legion was like this character that I could really connect to. Yeah. Kind of like Roy Batty in Blade Runner. Mm-hmm. Another one who's like that, where it's like I have empathy. I can feel empathy for other people for like when they're experiencing something that I'm familiar with. So it's not like I'm a psychopath, but like I just don't really have that sense of real human connection that a lot of people tend to have.
Right.
And
much
that's
more of a Spock type character.
Yeah, more logically driven, more
emotional.
Critical thinker, and less emotion. Because I had to be because of like what I had been through. Right. So like it was like that was how I coped with the world.
Yeah.
And that was my defense mechanism. And so playing games was like a really positive outlet for me because I would rather have been in those kinds of worlds than be in the real one, which kind of sucked. Yeah. And it sucked for a long time. And it was really hard. Yeah. And so, but like as far as like the game goes that covers this topic, like you mentioned it in the list there, like Hellblade was a super solid game. Mm-hmm. Like I went into that game with not really knowing what it was. It just looked cool on the cover, and I saw the gameplay trailer, and it's like, oh, we go into these topics of like auditory hallucinations and schizophrenia and stuff like that. I'm like, that sounds really interesting. I want to try that. Yeah. And so I picked it up and I started playing it, and man, it blew me away. Yeah. Like the way that they covered it, like Senua's journey and stuff, because like there's a lot of imagery to it. There's a lot of ambiguity where like you can kind of like get your own like how you interpret what she's looking at right now. And there's even things where like you think it's one way as you're playing the game, and then all of a sudden like you do something where you're supposed to progress, and then you turn around and it's different. Oh. And you're just like, what just happened?
Yeah, that sounds like it'd be really hard to play. Yeah, for me, because it'd be like a weird dream. It'd be like a bad dream.
Yeah, it is definitely a very surreal experience.
And that's what some people actually experience, which makes you feel for them, you know.
Yeah.
So deep topics up here in Epic Trash.
I thought this would be a really good one to talk about. And then so I guess just for myself to answer. One question that I thought did a really good job dealing with stuff like this, and it's a little bit different. It doesn't dive as much into anything specifically, but Darkest Dungeon was one that I thought had a really nice theme where it's like you kind of like start to run a town. Did you play it? Is that what you said? Oh yeah.
I know. I've watched people play it.
So you basically recruit like dungeoneers, and there's different classes and stuff, and then so you go down into a dungeon, and the whole point of the game is to complete the darkest dungeon. Right. And then so you're going through and you're gearing up and stuff like that. But what happens when you go into the dungeon is you get into fights with enemies and stuff. They not only do you have to worry about your health bar, but you also have like a stress meter. Yeah. And so like as you're going through these dungeons, it takes I guess internal and a mental toll on your dungeoneers. Yeah, and then so basically what happens if they basically go insane at a point, and they have either what happens, I forget what they call it, but either once the meter fills up, they basically break, and there's like a 75% chance it's going to be really bad and give you negative buffs, or there's like a 25% chance that you like conquer that breakdown and you get a positive buff. Right. And then when you complete the dungeon, if the characters don't die, then you go back and then you rest them and you like de-stress them basically. But there was like,
I heard that game was hard as hell.
It is really hard. I only beat, well, I don't want to say because it kind of gets twisted. Yeah, like at the end, because so the point is to beat the darkest dungeon. Yeah. But yeah, I thought that was like it was a really good idea and a really original idea to see that implemented into a game, and then so like I kind of fell in love with it, and like completely cracked out on it for a long time. Yeah. It's really good, and it's like a turn-based game. Well, it's actually kind of like everybody has its speed. And so some players can go
it's like a 2D JRPG kind of thing, right?
It's really good though. Like if you're really looking for something, if you're really into like strategy and kind of, I guess not puzzles, but strategy and RPG elements, then I think that's a really good game. And it's on Steam, and I think it's actually on PS4. They put it on the console. It might be on Xbox too, but I hate Xbox, so it doesn't really matter. No one cares. And then so. And then I guess as far as stuff that made me feel better, I'll tell you right now, though, playing Sekiro makes me just feel way better about life in general. Playing Dark Souls made me feel like Diablo. I think for me, it's like it's all about like the immersion and stuff.
My immersion.
Yeah, and so, so it's pretty much just all about like immersion and stuff like that for me, and I think it makes me feel better. But I would definitely to get kind of to just touch on the personal level. I think there's definitely been times where I kind of was like really stressed out, and like there was a time where I couldn't even play games because I just wasn't I wasn't doing it for me, and I'd be like I wouldn't be able to get into the games and stuff. And honestly, this is the final question, and I want you to think about is I was going to ask everybody kind of because we're going down this road
and you at home
where but basically for us to, if you one sentence maybe or something, because if somebody watches this or we subclip it and it's about depression, anxiety, and games, people will potentially watch it. So if you guys want to think just for a second while I answer the question, one sentence or two, it doesn't matter, but like if you had advice to give to a gamer who was going through depression or anxiety or maybe like a way out or something, you know what I mean? Or you don't have to, it doesn't matter. But I was just going to say, and I know it's going to be kind of funny, but I was actually going to say when I didn't watch, I actually had to stop watching movies, and I wasn't really feeling that great when I was playing video games either, but I just started reading a lot. And so, I don't know. I know I made a joke about books a long time ago, but basically I started reading, and that, like, I think it was just a more holistic form of escapism, the same thing that I was looking for before, but it wasn't so... You know, I feel like the television and video games are kind of, sometimes they're formatted to try to like keep you in. And it's like with a book, it's much more about like the writing and a lot of, I mean, sometimes there's definitely elements in a book where I think it's just more about creating a world with words, and you know what I mean. Sometimes books are a lot easier to just put down and stuff, or like, you know, that sort of, like then like the new television shows that kind of like format each program to like run into the next one, and they kind of like they write them to kind of stress you out, and there's a lot of drama and stuff. So I guess, I mean, that would be if there's a gamer who's watching this and, you know, you need to just, you know, take a time out and just read some books, man. I just read, the last book I read was actually Dracula. Like the original, like the Bram Stoker's Dracula, and it was like, it was dope, man. It was like, it was really cool.
For sure.
So I don't know, do you want to have anything to say on that?
Yeah, so if you're suffering with depression, just know that it hurts, but at the same time, there are things out there in life that usually make that pain worthwhile. And also, I guess I would say that I personally have found a lot of help, much like with Sekiro, where you're fighting for something and eventually you get it and you get that feeling of reward. I just do that with things in my real life. Like I set a goal and then achieving that kind of brings me joy. And obviously this is a subjective thing, but like that would be my own I guess wisdom, is that, you know, do that, and when you find yourself in hell, keep walking, you know what I mean? Like, don't stop, because then you'll stay there, you know? So
I think the thing for me with Sekiro, I think, is like, it's just like, hooray, somebody's finally made a good game again. And it's like, you know, it's just that kind of that. And I love like the achievement, the feeling of achievement that I get from the bosses. But like at the same time, it's just like, thank fucking God, like somebody has made a decent AAA game like right now, because it's like, especially we've had like some episodes where we talked about some games that have come out, and it's just like, sometimes it's just like shit after fucking money train shit, and it's just like, somebody please make something fucking good, because I want to sit on the couch for 20 hours like and have a good excuse to be there.
I'm still holding out for Anthem.
Yeah, that's okay. Did you have any comment you want to make before we...
Well, I mean, I can only speak for myself and what I did, what happened, and that's depending on if it's like, you know, an acute situation, like an acute depression where you're just really, you get really down in a hole, but it's only, you know, it's not normal for that to be a thing for you. Because like there are people that have it chronically, where it's like the depression's not quite as bad, but it's like it's stagnant for a long time. And like, so chronically, from a chronic perspective, the only thing you can really do is like be aware, try to be aware of what you're in control of and operate within those parameters, and don't be afraid of like pushing yourself a little bit further beyond those parameters from time to time, just to see what you're capable of, because you never really know what you're capable of. You never really know if you can, maybe without a professional to help guide you through the process and maybe what's causing it, or to like maybe if you need antidepressants if you're at that kind of stage. But if you can't get to antidepressants, if you can't get to this or that, then I'm telling you, like it's shit is temporary. Yeah. It's always temporary.
Yeah. So cliche, but it's so true.
It's cliche, and like I hate to say it because like I'm 33 and going on 34 this year, and I've dealt with it for like the majority of my life. But like it's really like your life will go in like a set of tiers, like where things will gradually get a little bit better, Yeah. But like you really want to be able to contrast where you are now with where you were just a day ago, if that helps, or where you were a year ago, or something like
yourself. Don't worry about other people.
But like if you're still feeling the same level of depression, if it hasn't gotten better for you, or like if your life hasn't improved or anything like that, it doesn't mean it's over, and you can still carry on. But like if you're still feeling sadness, if you're still feeling that weight on your shoulders, it's okay to feel that way. And you're not necessarily broken or like a bad person or anything like that at all. It's just you're kind of stuck in that situation, and like the best thing you can do is just to keep on keeping on, and like that's all you can do sometimes, and that's enough. That's enough. Don't beat yourself up because you're feeling that certain way, and don't let anybody else tell you, oh, just do this or just do that, because I know from my own experience sometimes it's just not that easy. Yeah. Like you just do the best you can. That's all you can do. Like that's all anybody should expect.
I think that's the biggest thing though, is because I know when I went through different periods of dealing with things like that, is like you just have to keep going, and it's like if you just lay in bed all day, then like you're getting beat. But it's like if you go out and you try to do some of the things that you're not totally comfortable with. And you know what happened to me is, and I don't want to get like too specific, but I was like, there would be certain normal everyday things that I was having trouble with, and like there would be points where I would like be halfway through the process, and then I would just walk out. Right. And it's just because I just couldn't do it. And then you know what I mean? But after a certain amount of time, I got to a certain place, and then I was able to do these things. I'm talking like things everybody does, like regular, like once a week or whatever. Like, you go to certain errands and stuff, but it's like, you just get through it eventually. And it is tough because I think it's like, you're definitely, when you're in the middle of it, you're like, damn, how the fuck long is this going to go on for?
Right, yeah.
And is there another...
It feels like it's never going to end.
Yeah, but it does, and I think, just start to surround yourself with the things that you want to do and make the changes that you know you can make. And
you're not alone. There's a lot of people who feel like it.
Yeah. I'll say this much from Kill Bill, just wiggle your big toe. Just wiggle your big toe.
You got to do something.
Yeah, I think it's good. I just think that was like a really good article, and it was really interesting to me. And I think right now,
and every game that you listed are all bangers. Like, I think pick those up if you're
I think it's because they're all passion projects. It's like it's an important topic, and
like every one of those has won a bunch of awards.
Yeah, I think Hellblade was the big one, but I think they just had a big publisher, didn't it? I thought the EA published.
Maybe
no.
I was just looking at that. Like it was.
I'm pretty sure a big publisher. They were published.
It
by
wasn't
EA though.
I wouldn't know.
It was developed by.
I might put money on it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe a couple of champagnes. But so we'll let Crow look that up, and then let's move on to.
It was developed by Ninja Theory.
There it is.
And I think it was published by a big company though. Let's move into something more upbeat. Also,
another big company.
I'm going to throw another graphic on with that I Thrive. It might be I Thrive Game Foundation. I might have messed it up. Sorry, but I'll put a graphic up and I'll put a link in the description. And then I think you got some more stuff about Cyberpunk, and then that'll be the end. And
apparently, it was also published by Ninja Theory.
Yep. Oh, really? Mm-hmm. I thought EA published one of those games.
Nope.
Maybe I was thinking.
What was the select?
No. Let's end this.
None of those.
Let's end this
on a bad. Yeah. So we got some news about Cyberpunk. I know you actually have a little bit of augmented news for this.
Yeah.
But I know that from a forum post, CD Projekt Red said that Cyberpunk is going to be released by 2021. Now, the original post on the forums was in Polish, but
so do you think it translated?
Courtesy of Google Translate, we have this lovely butchered sentence, and it says, "As for the strategy of CD Projekt Capital Group for the years 2016 through 2021, it's planned for the release of the second AAA game until 2021 remain unchanged. We are currently focusing on the production and promotion of Cyberpunk, so we do not want to comment on further projects." Huh?
Okay, but so Cyberpunk has to be the AAA.
So, well, they want to release a second title by 2021.
And that's the thing that, not too many people are talking about, but there's a second full-scale AAA RPG title.
There's rumors that it could be another Witcher game.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like it might be a Ciri-focused Witcher game, which would be awesome because I love Ciri. She's my girl in the Witcher 3.
Yeah.
I can't get enough of Ciri. She's just great.
Yeah, but I would think Cyberpunk would be the AAA.
I feel like, well, no, I mean they're both going to be AAA.
That's what they're saying. They have a second AAA RPG title.
So
I thought they said they're working on one, and then something else isn't.
Well, apparently
they don't consider it a AAA.
It's plans for the release of the second AAA game until 2021 remain unchanged.
By 2020, so they want to get 2 AAA titles out by 2021.
Yeah. Right, so surprise.
Which.
Everybody's focused on Cyberpunk. It's going to drop, and then this other one's going to come out of nowhere.
Cyberpunk is coming out very soon, I think.
Yeah?
I think it's going to come out sooner than people realize.
Right? It seemed like they had a pretty good polish on that one video.
It's already like just about in alpha stage.
Yeah.
And it's completely, you can play it start to finish. So the most they're doing at this point is polishing it up. That's all they're doing is just polishing it up.
All right. Well,
somebody even said that they were able to play through the whole thing.
Yeah.
So like it's pretty much complete. They just have to finalize it and get the finishing touches on it.
Yeah, because I think the whole thing is single player game too, right? Or is it multiplayer?
I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah.
You know what I thought would have been really cool if you could do Cyberpunk with like a 2-player co-op where like one of the guys could play the dude, or like if you pick the dude, because I think you can pick between the guy and the girl.
You can,
yeah. So it'd be nice if one could pick the guy and then your friend could play as the girl. Like
I don't know if they're going to do that though because like the male and female are supposed to be technically the same
person, right?
So like, but
I thought they play with each other. I thought they like go through the game.
I don't think so.
Well, the gameplay that we saw, the 40-minute gameplay, they were both like he was in the car with her, and like he was like in different parts of the game, like walking around. Maybe he doesn't actually do anything though. I could be wrong. Like maybe he wasn't.
I think that was just a partner character. It wasn't V. V was the character that was being played as
she was the female girl, right?
Yeah.
But remember, she had like her big boyfriend. The other.
Yeah, but that wasn't V. Though. That was a separate character.
Yeah, I know, but I thought they because in the gameplay they kind of spend some time around each other and then spend time talking. I just thought it would be cool, and like I mean, this is probably somebody probably knows, but if it would have been something like Resident Evil 5. Where you could kind of do you could run through co-op kind of thing.
I don't know if we're gonna. I don't know.
I don't think they are because I think they would have said something like that already. But I think it would have been more average. But I just thought like this looks like a game that would be really cool to go through with another person. Or if you don't want to, they could have like AI. But if it's single player, I mean, I don't see. They're just probably fixing the bugs and stuff. I mean, what I saw of the one video, man, like it looked pretty good, and maybe that was just like they probably just had that certain section
that's a slice
like done over, and just
the other part when it comes to like the release of Cyberpunk is that, and this might just be like rumor, but like apparently, CD Projekt Red is up for getting a potential release date bonus.
Okay.
If they release it by a certain period of time. So it's possible, like, if they don't release it by the rumor was supposed to be like sometime this summer, then they don't get that bonus anymore.
Let's not talk about 100-hour work weeks.
And considering the fact that like they've been working on Cyberpunk this long, and they want to have another AAA game out by 2021, that's 2 years.
Yeah.
like they must have already started production on some other title that they haven't even been talking about,
right?
And they're getting Cyberpunk out the door, probably this year. That's my guess.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment.
Yeah,
because then that way, like
I would also buy it.
Yeah. That way they can like
literally
they can take all the developers off of Cyberpunk, have it out this year, just update it a little bit here and there with like a skeleton crew, and then like
all hands on deck for this other one.
And then just
Sure.
I think as obviously if you do think it's coming out in summer, I mean it might even be like a Christmas time release or something.
Maybe.
I mean, well, that's just always a really good time to put games out. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And usually there's the big like Call of Duty and Battlefield and stuff, and then usually there's some that gets sneaked in there or snuck in there. I don't know. But sometimes somebody will slip a game and it'll kind of like throw a wrench in the plans of those bigger game titles and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I'm really looking forward to Cyberpunk. Almost as much as I'm looking forward to playing Sekiro. But I think, I don't know. Cyberpunk just looks really promising. I mean, like the different concepts and ideas that they're putting into the game.
After playing Witcher 3, I'm in it.
Yeah.
Cyberpunk or CD Projekt Red has completely won me over. So
I didn't even play Witcher 3.
The Witcher 3 is like, I'm not big on fantasy settings,
but
like Witcher 3 is the only fantasy setting game to ever like really pull me in. Like Skyrim, I played some of the side guild quest lines and stuff. Mm-hmm. Never really cared about it that much. Like I exploited it, I glitched it.
Was it just Geralt's story that pulled you in, or was it the dark setting?
It was just like I guess technically it was like a dark fantasy. Yeah. So like I definitely enjoyed that aspect of it more, but really like the way that they crafted like the lore and like it was just very unusual. It's not a typical fantasy world.
It's true. You don't have your gnomes and shit, you know.
Yeah, and like you have.
Are you talking about Skyrim or Witcher?
Witcher. And the characterization was like top notch.
Yeah.
Like every character was like very fully realized. Yeah. Like Geralt was very much like he is 100% Geralt. Like there's no mistaking him. Like Yennefer was awesome. Triss is great. Yep. Ciri is like my favorite. I love Ciri. Like I would love like my own daughter. So like she was just like it was great to see like her journey through the game and like how she's like come of age now and she's like an adult and she's like really tough. She was raised by, that's like from Witcher 1 and 2. Okay. But like, so like just the way that they write it all out, like there's some real character development in there and some real characterization in there.
Yeah. That's what I was just going to say. What made me think while you were talking about it is just like, if you know how to make a good game, you can almost put it in any world and it'll be good. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's the same thing like when I tell people about, like if somebody asks me what kind of movies I like genre, I usually steer away from comedy, but that's only because they tell you it's going to be funny. And that's not always the case. But it's like anybody who's good at writing and directing, if they get the right team together, you can put a great movie in any genre. And I could watch it just because it's done well. Yeah. And it's like the same thing with games. Like as long as you do it the right way, like you can almost put it anywhere. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Except for maybe like under the ocean or something, or I don't know where.
Witcher, SpongeBob edition.
But think about there's been great games in almost like every genre and in every place you can think of. At least at some point, it's like people just need to think about how they're writing games and developing, and So let's wrap it up. What were the questions of the week again? DMC5 or Sekiro?
Yeah, which one do you like better?
Which one was better?
They're both a 9.5. What did you rate it? 9.5 so far?
Sekiro? Yeah. Dude, Sekiro's a fucking 11, man.
Yeah, I love that game.
So far.
I knew you would love that game. That is
Dude, it's just they just keep adding, man. Like you've done exactly what you're supposed to do, and it's like you've made the last thing you did was Bloodborne and probably Dark Souls DLC and stuff, and then it's like you've stepped it up in it, you know what I mean? Again, like From Software has just raised the bar, and it's like you did everything you were supposed to do, and this game's fucking awesome. And it's like you've added so many ideas that other developers use and brought it to yours and made it your own, and it's just fucking great.
Nice.
I should play more Devil May Cry 5, but you know what I would probably say is I'd probably say Sekiro is better.
Oh, okay.
But I don't know, because I haven't played Devil May Cry 5, but I have a feeling I kind of know. If Devil May Cry 5 is anything like Devil May Cry 4 or any of the other ones, I kind of know what's going on there.
Well, with the rank for your combat and your
I don't know,
crazy story. And
it depends. I don't know. I could potentially fall in love with Devil May Cry 5. And then then our challenge of the week is going to be
send us the trash clips.
Yeah, we try to make an intro. So any video clips or still images, they can be JPEGs, they can be whatever you want, of your trash moments in gaming or trash moments outside of gaming. And that's going to be it for the podcast. Today was Sunday, March 24th, 2013.
March.